From MONOCAL 3D. Today we're going to check out the Anycubic Photon Mono M5S. Let's get into it. Okay, without further ado, let's take the old Stanley knife, as we call them here in Australia. So here we've got the instruction manual and it looks like a screen protector. Oh, look at this. Big smiley face. It's another year. It's another printer from Anycubic without any handles or a handle or a space for a handle. So when you're unpacking these, it's always important to check because things like this bill plate is sort of tucked in here, which is a really good way to pack it, but just make sure. Now you can see here, checker pattern there. We really like that from Anycubic. It does a really good job of helping models stick to the bill plate. It sort of uses a suction effect in a way and also just gives that abrasion. And a lot of the companies now are doing that. Okay, so that's an interesting way to do it. So the box there of goodies, pretty mandatory stuff. Plastic scraper, that's a great one for in the vat. Rubber gloves, of course. USB stick to get the models on. The Australian cable, we always like to see an Australian cable. I ordered it from their online site and I got it delivered. Standard stuff. We've got the mask and the paper filters and the scraper. We're collecting these. We've got a few of these, but if this is your first printer, these are great to get prints off the bill plate. Has that tapered edge on it there, you can see, and that makes it really, really handy. Whoa, now that's what I call a pretty big Allen key. I quite like that. That's the first time I've seen that. And the reason I like that is having it sat in place, it is prone to potential scratching the screen and also of the vat itself. Well done, Anycubic. That's a bit of innovation there to come up with another way of supplying a vat. Now, interestingly, it's just a little green tab there. Now you'd remove that film. It looks like it's just a protective film that's doing that. So if I peel that off, it actually is one of their frosted films. But look, just one other thing. Well done again to Anycubic. We've got max line here and here, so on both sides, okay? Which to me says that this vat can be placed any way, which is great as well. I mean, let's face it, there's nothing that unique about it. To have a vat like this that can be placed any way is good. And most vats probably it doesn't matter. But what they've done here as well, and this is a third thing I'm going to say, is these. They've got a lip in every single corner. Now that's awesome. It's a really good idea and just makes it super easy. Doesn't matter how you take it off the printer, when you're pouring it out, you're going to go in those lips there, and that's a really nice feature. And you know what else? They've gone and they're sticking with aluminium. And that's what we like to see, a nice sturdy vat. And also, that's a little handle, I guess, a carrying handle. I quite like that. It means I don't have to get my fingers on the film underneath. That's an improvement. And I didn't mention this, but the depth of this is a deep vat. You know, this makes so much more sense why they kept going with these shallow vats where you could hardly fit any resin in there. All right, so let's have a look at the printer itself. The first thing I noticed when I picked that up was the weight of it. We've mentioned this on the last few. I think the Mono X2 was the first time I saw this series coming out with this plastic base. I understand why they're doing it, obviously to save money, but I have to say that I'm really not a fan of it. And I know that a lot of our customers say the same thing. The plastic can deteriorate over time, marks up a lot more easily. I've had them crack on me. I would definitely keep your solvents away from the plastic, resin away and things like that, unless you sort of wipe it on and then wipe it pretty quickly soon after with a bit of water. Just be wary that this is plastic. It comes with a protective film on here, which does need removing, and it tells you so. We just remove that, and that's just going to expose your screen. Just always be very wary of this screen. It's always hard to tell whether there's a protector on these or not. Now, if you have a look here, it looks like it comes with the protector, this one here. As you can see there, this protector that they've supplied. Now, it's sometimes in the past it was hard to work out whether there was a protector on there, and the reason being is that they only ever protect up to, you know, this tape line or just a little bit beyond it. But this protector is actually going to protect not just the screen but also around the screen as well. So that's something that we haven't really seen before. You know, not a bad way of doing it. I mean, we've used film in the past just to protect the screens, and yeah, we have no problem going beyond the actual screen itself, because if you do get a spill, the unfortunate case you do have a spill or resin vat leaks, which does happen. It's probably not a bad thing that you're protecting around this area here as well, because there's less that you need to clean up. A lot easier just to peel this off, have to try and clean all that area. So you can see here we've got the USB port on the side there, which is very, very disappointing. I thought we'd gone beyond that, and having it at the front is just so much more friendly and easier to use and deal with. I think the next thing we need to do is get this turned on. So I'm going to take the AC adapter. To put the screen protector on, I need to get this up, and the only way to get this up is to turn it on and manually raise the Z axis. So we'll do that now. I'm just going to plug this in now. So I'm going to make sure that was sort of in a half position there, which is never good. I'm going to make sure this is in the off position. And I'm going to flick that switch at the back and turn it on. The menu looks a little bit different on this version of the firmware, so I'll have a look. So that's settings for the language and service, and got a more settings button there. Okay. So this does have a network connection, which is nice to know. So we can look at that as well. So if we go to the move function here in settings, we can select still, oh, that's good. So it doesn't have a top, but it does have a 50, more than a 10. So if I hit the up there, that will take it up 50. I'm going to go up another 50. Okay, so now we're going to put the screen protector on. So you can see here we've got a front and we've got a back. In the instructions, it says to use the cleaning kit. Now this cleaning kit that comes with it, it's very important that you probably use this if you've got any dust on the screen. So just do that. That's just going to help. Call it, in painting, they call it a tack cloth. It just grabs any dust because it is slightly wet, and being alcohol, it's just going to not leave any sort of streaks or marks. Now, don't take both of these off at once. Just take one off, and just take the one that says back. Okay, so that's back's going to be the one that goes onto the screen itself. Now, I've always learnt with these things, very important you don't touch it once you peel off that protective layer, because you don't want dust and things to get on it. So also try and work when you do this sort of thing into a dust-free environment. So just carefully peel that off. And what I do then is I don't go any further than that, okay? And then I will take this here and I'll line it up as best I can. So I can see you've got to make a way for that, obviously that center screw hole there to the vat for these lug points here, which I'll show you in a minute. Just hold it in place there. Just make sure that you're still even here throughout, which is looking quite good, if that's sort of straightened out. And then you very carefully, again, without getting any dust or anything on that screen, very carefully peel this, and then just slowly, as you're peeling it, you're dropping it down. Now you could use your cloth to try and avoid any bubbles. See how good a job I've done here. So it's just a matter of working the bubbles off. You can try the plastic scraper that comes with it. Because the protective layer is still on there, might help get some of these bigger bubbles out. I'm going to take off the front of this protective film, and that's going to leave you now with clean looking protection. There are some bubbles there, but as I say, I'm not too worried about them. If you wanted to, you could take that off, give it another alcohol wipe to make sure that it's all clean. But as I say, it's not going to make too much of a difference. So just seeing here, you can see the vat has these little lugs in the corners. There's one in each corner. What they do is they sit into spot here, and that's just a good way to line up vat knobs. So they just go in there. They should just screw in to that hole. These are a pretty rudimentary way of holding the vat in place, but you know, it's basic, but I have to say it does work. I mean, there are other systems out there now, sliding systems. They're using knobs or screws that stay in place with the vat. Having them to come all the way out like that, I don't mind if you could potentially lose them, but at least if you do submerge the whole vat in your cleaning solution, you're not, going to have these in there. Not a bad thing. Just don't lose them. It's annoying if you lose them, especially with this different size vat, because I'd say they're quite unique to this new vat. So interesting to see how long that plastic lasts, because Anycubic printers haven't had great history with this plastic, or this plastic, or this plastic. So we'll see how that goes. that's there. The next thing is the build plate. So to bring the build plate in, we loosen this a little bit and we're just going to slide that on there. Now, it has been self-leveled. Normally we'd go through a leveling process. No need apparently with this printer because it's saying it is self-leveled. So if it does come out of level, then you will have to level it. So with the auto leveling, there's nowhere here to physically level it anymore. So it's just done by the printer. You can see here there's 4 bolts. This is all very robust. So I guess the idea is that if it's leveled properly at the factory, it never needs to be, leveled again. Okay, so I was a bit perplexed as how this works. If you wanted to put a different thickness FEP or some sort of flexible, removable plate, which I know that quite a few of the guys use, there's no way. It just says this is an auto leveling machine and it doesn't require leveling, right? So too bad, that's it, right? But we did pull this off here and you can see here that it exposes the screws, okay? Now, that now is very similar. I can get a shot of that. There you go. That now is very similar to a standard Anycubic and Illigu and everybody else's build plate. It has the 2 screws and they're adjustable. Okay, so that's going to give a bit of give. Now, is it enough to put a wham bam on there? I'm not sure. That's something that you'd have to check. But that's how you do it. So there's this little plastic tab, and they've just tried to say, you know what? No need to level. Don't look here. Look over there, bit of smoke and mirrors, put a bit of something over it and you can't do it, but in fact you can, okay? So in a way that is a good thing, you can still do it because as I say, there's always situations where you might need to. So I'm gonna lift this up a little bit higher. Whoops, put it back on 50 and we'll go up. I have noticed it's quite hard to read this screen on this angle. Front on, when I was around the front before, it is easier. You can see it very clearly on the camera there. So I'm going to get Tim to pass me a USB. It's got a pre-sliced model on it. And we're going to put it in the side here and we're going to load up that print. Now before I do that, I just want to quickly show you, while Tim's doing that, I want to show you this. This is our a new product that we're selling now. They've been around for a little while. It's called the MessMatt. Now the MessMatt is essentially a silicon mat, regular size and a mega size. But the best part about it is this lip. So that lip there obviously will catch a resin spill, and that's the whole idea of it. So you put this down first, and the overhead camera should pick this up. Put this down first, and you literally can just put your printer and then your bits and pieces on the side of it. So if your resin does happen to spill, it's not going to cause any major problems. Obviously, depending on how much resin you spill, let's just say you had a litre or a half litre here. This mat, especially the mega one, would certainly capture that. And it just keeps the mess down and the stick away from your surfaces. You can also just take this outside and let it cure in the sun, scrape the resin off or peel it off. It is a really easy way to deal with it. Or just use some resin away wipes to wipe it clean if it's still in liquid form. Cure it should just pick straight off there. It won't stick, that's the advantage of silicone. I guess we're going to get some resin in this thing. I think I need some gloves on, so we'll do my standard trick. Always amazes me how that happens. Magic of television. Today, I've got one of our 5-litre jugs here of the tensile black resin. We were using this downstairs. It's a lovely resin, prints beautifully and perfect to test it in this unit. It's got a little bit out of it, so just give it a bit of a shake. Okay, so you can see here we've got 2 models. We've got the calibration model. So I'm going to click on that there. It's going to bring up the details of this model, how many layers it is, and all the standard things that we see here, how much resin it's going to use. We just double check that we're happy with everything, that that's all tight, ready to go, and we hit print. You'll hear the fans automatically kick in there. You'll see the worm drive spinning as the build plate lowers down into the resin. You'll just notice here, auto print check. Now this is a new function obviously with the auto leveling feature. So if we click on that, it gives you a status screen of the connection of the screen, the force detection, motor status, and the resin content and leveling. So it's ticked there. So it's going through and saying, okay, I'm basically happy. I've got green ticks. And I guess if there was an issue with any of those, you know, there'd be a cross there to say this is not right. I don't know what you do then, but at least it gives you some indication of what's gone on. So motor status, connection status, all interesting and quite handy to have. Let's have a look as well if they've left this feature in, because we always like this about the Anycubic printers, the ability to change the settings on the fly. So you can see here the normal exposure is set to 3 seconds. We have the bottom exposure setting and how many bottom layers and also the transition layers. We should be able to change this. So if I was to then come in here, I could change that, say, to 3.5. If we're going to print this calibration model again, it means I don't need to reslice it. And that is a really, really handy feature of the Anycubics. And I have to say the others really need to do that because it's great. Even the higher end, more expensive printers won't do that. And I think it's a really handy feature. Okay, so we've finished that model, which was the calibration models. So let's have a look at how we did here. So we'll take that off and we can see if our timing was correct. What we normally would do with this is give them a clean first. So we've got the MONOCAL there. We've got this other little calibration model, shows detail. So really important when you do calibration models to know which one you're printing and familiarize yourself with the model. It's no good in using a model and then not understanding what you're looking at. I believe this one is from Frozen, and it shows you these two little arrows, for example, and if they're just touching, it's easy to see it once it's clean. That means that, and there's no real gaps, that you've got your resin pretty well spot on. Understand what you're looking at. I see it a lot when people will do a calibration model and they'll send me the picture and they'll go, how does that look? And it's really overcured or really undercured. And by overcured, I mean that the parts are way bigger than they should be, and the detail's not there. And undercured means that there are things missing. This is something that Anycubic introduced a little while ago, a few printers ago, and it's amazing. It laser etched. It does a really good job. I don't know if you saw when I peeled that off. Even just holding that down there and getting the air out of it again, you can just see that, look, that's stuck back on there. Now, I guarantee you, if that was on a plate without that checker plate, it wouldn't have done that. And the reason is, I believe it creates some sort of suction to the plate. It's really good and it really, really helps. Look at that. A new printer and new resin, dialing in and getting it to print well. Then once you've got it printing well, then you can always speed it up. So we're going to find this print. So we're going to tick that as okay. And we're going to come in here. And there's something else. So we click on that. A quick look at the settings, which I think are going to be fine because they were based on that other one. While that's printing, let me go through the stats. Okay guys, so the specs on this machine, the Anycubic Photon Mono M5S, the machine weight on its own is an 8.9 kilos. So as I mentioned earlier, that is that plastic design there, so it does keep the weight down. The dimensions of the unit in millimeters, 460 times 270 times 290 millimeters. Printing volume is 5.4 litres. Printing dimensions, we're looking at 200 by 218 by 123 millimeters. With a high-speed resin, so they're saying you need special high-speed resin at 105 millimeters an hour. And with general resin, they're saying 70, which is kind of standard. The light source is an LED matrix UV light. Machine leveling, it says here, is leveling free. The exposure screen is a 10.1 monochrome and it's got a 12K resolution, that's great. Build platform, laser engraving, aluminium alloy, we spoke about that. Control panel, 4.3 inch touchscreen. The protection film, now I showed you that earlier, we put that on, that's the film for the screen and it goes around the edge of the screen. 100 watt rated power, and the data input is Wi-Fi 2 and also USB-A, which is really good too. Well, there you have it guys, the Anycubic Mono M5S. Neat little machine. Overall, I quite rate it. Give me, a couple of months with it down in the print lab and we'll see how it goes. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell if you like this type of content. But most importantly, remember to keep on 3D printing.